The Canticle of Lissarion. The melody of the unseen legends say that, at the dawn of time, when men still believed the universe was divided into the visible and the hidden, there lived a wise man whose name was erased from books, but not from the echoes of the soul. He was called Lissarion, not for what he knew, but for what he remembered. Lissarion was not a tally counter or a collector of theories. He was a pilgrim of the soul, a traveler of the subtle planes who ventured beyond the senses and the shadows. It was said that he possessed a forgotten manuscript, not written in ink or on parchment, but engraved with vibrations in the silence of the ether. This invisible reliquary spoke not of formulas or equations, but of the secret song that sustains life, of the melodies that whisper in every cell, in every sigh, in every unspoken wish. According to that manuscript, hidden from the unseen but resonant to awakened hearts, everything that exists is nothing more than a dance of frequencies. There is no pain or joy, no ruin or fortune that is not in harmony with an inner note. Healing, abundance, rebirth. These are not random events, but chords activated by those who have learned to listen to the symphony of the universe. This isn't a book. It's a portal, a journey, an awakening. Here you won't find answers for the mind, but keys for the soul. Lissarion understood, in his vigil nights in the sunken temples of Orcanis and in his silent days in the ruins of Ajar, that the universe was not built of stone, but of sound. The visible forms were shadows of the invisible, and every emotion was a vibrating string on the great lyre of the cosmos. He learned, not from teachers of flesh, but from the winds and stars, that every thought emits a pulse, and that every emotion is a ripple that alters the very fabric of existence. Nothing is separate. A man's heart can alter the course of a river, just as a woman's sadness can cause almond trees to bloom early. Everything vibrates, everything resonates, everything responds. The secret scroll, which Lissarion never showed because it was illegible to the eyes and could only be felt in the chest, taught that illness is not a punishment, but a dissonant chord in the body's song. That poverty is not lack, but a mistuned note waiting to be corrected. And that love, that mystery everyone seeks as if it were alien, is nothing more than the pure vibration of the soul when it remembers who it is. Those who followed Lissarion didn't listen to him speak. They sat with him in silent circles, and in that silence they allowed themselves to be penetrated by pure sounds, emitted not with voice, but with intention. Sounds that weren't heard, but felt. Vibrations capable of reconfiguring inner geometry. And so slowly his disciples stopped seeking outside what was already within. They learned that external reality was merely an echo of their inner harmony. That if they harbored fear, the world would wall them up. That if they cultivated trust, paths would open effortlessly. They understood that wealth was not an accumulation, but a frequency. That happiness was not a goal, but a rhythm. It was said that some, after years of deep resonance, could heal with a glance, attract what was needed with a sigh, or alter their destiny with a thought tuned to the divine beat. But none of them claimed miracles, because they knew that a miracle is not an event, but an alignment. And yet, Lissarion never taught a formula, nor left any instructions. His legacy was a vibration, a presence, a melody that continues to vibrate in the gaps of time, waiting to be remembered by those willing to silence the noise of the world and listen. Now, you and I, wanderer of the invisible, are at the threshold of that melody. We don't have to search for it, we have to remember it. Listen, in the space between each word, in the pause between each heartbeat. There's a song that's been waiting for you for centuries. You won't find it in books or temples. You'll find it at that point between inhalation and exhalation, where the mind can't reach, but the soul can recognize. Breathe, feel, vibrate. You're not learning something new. You're awakening to what your spirit knew before the first dawn, before you forgot that you too like the suns and the seas, were born from a primordial note. The vibration of your destiny won't come from outside. It's born within you, like an ancient song, like a whisper from the universe that has finally found an echo in your chest. Hey, if you've made it this far, it's because this topic really interests you. So remember, the first link in the description has a lot more metaphysical content that can help you even more. Don't miss it. Lysarion and the heartbeat of the hidden worlds. Before clocks could tell time, when the human soul still walked barefoot through the secrets of the universe, Lysarion embarked on a journey. It wasn't a journey between cities or kingdoms, but a descent into the invisible, a silent journey through the hidden fibers of existence. Long before he was remembered as a master of sacred forms and geometry, Lysarion was a seeker of the eternal pulse. He wasn't content with understanding what the eyes could see or deciphering what could be named. He longed to hear the primordial rhythm, that secret drum that beats behind every star and every tear. In his journey, he sought not temples built of stone, but sanctuaries erected in silence. In the golden lands of ancient Asgard and the sacred deserts of the south, Lysarion was welcomed by guardians of forgotten knowledge. They instructed him not with words, but with frequencies. They taught him not formulas, but lessons woven into vibrations. There, amid the shadows of the incense and the flickering light of the torches, he learned that the numbers were not empty symbols, but sounds at rest. Each one vibrated with a purpose, a memory. They were like sonic seeds that contained, in their essence, the very architecture of creation. It wasn't about adding or subtracting, it was about remembering. Among the most closely guarded secrets was a codex, invisible to the eye but vibrant to the soul, which was only given to those who had emptied their egos and tempered their hearts. Through it, Lysarion discovered a silent revelation. Every thought that arises emits a frequency. Every emotion becomes a wave that passes through the fabric of reality. Health, fortune, love. These were not capricious gifts, but resonances of the vibrational state that every human being harbored within. The ancients knew, though we forget, that sound can restore, that frequency can elevate, that a pure note can rewrite destiny. As Lysarion deciphered this wordless language, he understood a profound truth, so powerful that it must be protected from those who sought only control. Whoever understood the vibration could ignite the flame of life or extinguish it. For at the heart of creation lies a duality. Every note can heal, but it can also wound. That's why the Codex was sealed. Its teachings weren't destroyed, but scattered, like stardust carried by the wind of time, waiting to be rediscovered by those with an inner ear. You, reader of the invisible, are today on the verge of that rediscovery. In the silence between each word you read, in the sigh that escapes between one thought and the next, there is a vibration that cannot be measured, but that can be felt. It is not new knowledge, it is the echo of something ancient that has always lived within you. While the modern world wallows in the noise of the immediate, the ancient soul still remembers its song. Lysarion didn't teach external truths, but rather ways to tune the soul. His disciples, few and silent, didn't repeat hymns, but allowed themselves to be penetrated by sacred tones, frequencies emitted with pure intention, intended to harmonize body and spirit. They understood that the outside world was nothing more than a mirror of the inside. That if you sowed fear, the universe returned forms of loss. But if you cultivated trust, life responded with doors that opened by themselves. And from that understanding, a new vision was born. Abundance isn't conquered, it's attracted. It's not about possessing more, but about vibrating better. Water doesn't struggle to reach the ocean, it simply flows toward it, obeying a law older than any civilization. So too is fortune. It goes where it finds resonance. Where there is inner peace, gold becomes presence. Where there is chaos, even much dissolves like sand in the wind. It was said that true initiates could touch another's heart with a single glance, summon rain with a sigh, alter the course of their existence with the precision of an emotional chord. But they were neither magicians nor gods. They were men and women who had learned to remember. And that's the great lesson. There is no secret, only forgetting. Therefore, this journey you now begin is not toward the future, but toward the sacred memory of what you were, of what you still are deep down. Lysarion left no formulas or commandments. His legacy is a call, a murmur, a note suspended in the air, waiting to be recognized by your soul. Hear beyond the ear, feel beyond the skin, remember beyond the mind. Your body is an instrument, your emotion, a string, your thought, the hand that plays. Adjust your vibration and the universe will respond like a lyre played by the gods. Not as a reward, but as a reflection. Not as a fantasy, but as an eternal law. Just as the moon obeys the pull of the earth, so too does reality obey the secret song within you. Tune your being, and the universe will dance to your beat. Lysarion and the art of tuning the soul. Each dawn in Lysarion's time didn't begin with haste or with plans written in stone. His first task wasn't to build or conquer, but something more subtle and sacred, to harmonize. Before speaking, before even moving, he and his disciples closed their eyes, and in that instant, an invisible ceremony was born. No altar or incense was needed. All that was needed was a moment of stillness, a conscious breath, an inner whisper that said, "I am at peace, I am grateful, and my intention is pure." That seemingly simple practice was like tuning an instrument before life's concert, a moment to align thought, breath, and heart until all vibrated like strings that had found their perfect pitch. And when the soul vibrates in harmony, miracles are no longer exceptions. They become a natural consequence. Like the dew that arrives with the dawn, like the flower that opens when it feels the caress of the sun, so synchronicity responded to those who lived in accordance with the invisible laws of the cosmos. You too can begin this sacred ritual. You need nothing more than the desire to remember. Upon awakening, instead of carrying the rusty weight of yesterday's memories, allow a new melody to flow through you, a frequency of rebirth. Before you speak a word, before you make a decision, listen. Feel the pitch at which your spirit vibrates. And if you notice it has fallen out of tune, adjust it with the tenderness of a musician who loves his instrument. Because vibration isn't an abstract concept. It's the pulse that runs through your gestures. It's in the softness of your smile, in the pause with which you breathe, in the conscious choice of hope instead of fear, of love instead of judgment. Each small act of alignment sends out ripples that travel beyond the visible, like stones thrown into a cosmic lake. These ripples weave possibilities, forge new paths, and call into your life experiences that resonate with your new inner state. And now, as we prepare to cross a deeper threshold on this journey, take this truth with you. You are the lute, you are the musician, you are the melody. The sacred manuscript, the one many believed lost or sealed forever, is not in a hidden temple or on a distant mountaintop. It is within you. Its teachings live in your blood, weight in your chest, beat in your every decision. Every heartbeat, every breath, every conscious choice brings you closer to the destiny that was always written in the stars. And now that the chords of your soul begin to vibrate more clearly, we move toward the deepest mysteries of vibrational healing, toward the sacred science that reveals how your thoughts and emotions are invisible sculptors of the reality that surrounds you. Before you, the path opens like a river of light. It is the journey toward infinity, beyond the tangible, beyond even the thoughts you think are your own. There, in a field of energy that cannot be seen but can be felt, lies the living fabric of the universe. A tapestry woven with every vibration you emit when you breathe, when you feel, when you speak. That field is not a fantasy, but the canvas on which life paints your story. The ancient sages knew it. Lysarion lived it. Like the harp string that vibrates and makes the air dance, so too does the vibration of your soul move the invisible ethers, shaping the intangible, long before the tangible takes shape. Your internal states are not contained within you. They expand, creating energetic structures that precede every experience you live. Every thought, especially those charged with emotion, is a signal sent to that field. A fearful thought emits a broken wave, a distorted frequency. In contrast, an emotion of gratitude flows like a melodic and harmonious current. Over time, these waves intertwine and build, invisibly, forms that attract equivalent experiences. This is why ancient healers didn't heal the body directly. They first harmonized the vibrational field. They knew that attracting prosperity wasn't achieved through necessity, but through the deep certainty that one already possesses it. Not as a delusion, but as a conviction that vibrates to the very bones. That's why so many affirmations remain empty. Words without belief are hollow shells. It's the vibration that sustains them, the genuine feeling, the living intention, that summons the universe's response. The universe does not respond to the language of your lips, but to the silent song that emanates from your emotions. Now imagine that field around you, shining like a second skin. Every joy expands it like a light that ignites. Every resentment dims it like a shadow that spreads. Every act of trust makes it radiant. Every doubt contracts it like a flower that closes in the face of winter. You are not a prisoner of circumstances. You are a constant transmitter of the design of your next chapter. This is the essence of vibrational healing, assuming sovereignty over the music you emit, being the conscious architect of the energy you offer to the world every day. Tune, listen, adjust, love. And when your field becomes a clear beacon, when the melody of your soul is in perfect harmony, life will respond, not as a favor, but as an inevitable dance. Abundance, love, health, peace. They are not conquered, they are attracted. Because you are the instrument. And your vibration is the offering the universe cannot reject. Chapter: The Art of Tuning the Soul. Every thought born in the secret garden of your mind is like a seed thrown into the invisible field of existence. The only question that truly matters is, will you sow haphazardly, letting the winds of the unconscious scatter your destiny aimlessly? Or will you take the reins with devotion and sow with intention, weaving your story with purpose, joy, and boundless abundance? On this path, we are uncovering together. I want to reveal to you ancient, simple yet profound practices that have been guarded for generations, like pearls of wisdom, in the vault of sacred vibration. These teachings are not dormant. They are simply waiting to awaken within you, like a symphony waiting for its moment to resonate. The music of your soul has never been silent. It has always been there, vibrating behind every emotion, hidden beneath the words you don't say, and the tears you haven't cried. And once you understand that this inner vibration shapes the world around you, a great door will open. It is not a door made of wood or stone, but of consciousness, a door of true creation, an opening to the power that has always been within you. This awakening is both liberating and deeply humbling, because it's not about achieving something new, but about recognizing that you have always been creating, sometimes in darkness, sometimes in light. Every fleeting thought, every lingering emotion, every word you've spoken, even in the silence of your mind, has left traces on the tapestry of your destiny. Lysarion, the sage of celestial echoes, taught that the universe is not composed of matter, but of music. Everything that exists, a star, a stone, a soul, vibrates with its sacred tone. And just as two notes can produce harmony or dissonance, our personal vibrations align or clash with the energies around us. That's why there are times when everything seems to flow, when doors open on their own, and the path is illuminated effortlessly. It's not luck or chance, it's resonance. It's your soul dancing on the same frequency as the blessings that await you. When that harmony occurs, what was hidden becomes tangible, and what seemed impossible manifests naturally. But the opposite also happens. when your primary vibration is permeated with fear, doubt, or resentment. It's as if you are out of tune with your inner instrument. It's not that you're unworthy. It's simply that you're playing a different tune than the one that corresponds to what you yearn for. The universe doesn't punish. It only responds with absolute fidelity to the song you emit from your deepest core. Herein lies the power of vibrational healing. You are called to become a conscious composer of the symphony of your life. You are invited to shape, moment by moment, a melody so pure and coherent that it attracts health, prosperity, love, and fulfillment to you, just as a flower naturally turns toward the light of the sun. Start with awareness. Observe the texture of your thoughts, the aroma of your emotions. Listen to what your feelings are singing. Are they melodies of hope and confidence or minor chords of fear and hopelessness? There's no need to judge. Just listen and tune gently. Every tiny adjustment changes everything. A movement from fear to courage, from anger to compassion, from hopelessness to faith. Each of these internal shifts is a reconfiguration of your vibrational field. And over time, these subtle corrections accumulate an invisible force until one day you realize your entire life is singing a new song. Luminous, radiant, yours. And so, Soul Walker, as we delve even deeper into this sacred art, prepare to discover practices that will help you refine your energy like a string master. Prepare to recall forgotten arts, mysteries dormant for centuries, that today begin to awaken in the depths of your spirit. The symphony of your destiny has not yet been fully written. We are in the middle of the beat, in that sacred pause where everything is possible. Let's continue writing it together. To begin sculpting your vibration with true intention, one must first embrace the sanctity of silence. Not an empty silence, but a fertile one, full of life. Silence is not absence, it is pure presence. It is the invisible soil where true creation takes root. In it you can hear the subtle murmur of your soul without the noise of the outside world, without the echoes of what others expect of you. In that quiet, deep space, you can hear your own essence, the authentic note you emit with each breath. Lassarion taught his disciples to harmonize the inner lyre, a daily ritual of conscious silence, where at dawn, when the world had not yet fully awakened, they would sit in stillness, not to listen to the birdsong or the whisper of the wind, but to hear the music that springs from the center of their chests. That steady pulse, that silent melody composed of emotions that arise beneath your thoughts, is the secret score of your life. You don't need temples or elaborate ceremonies. You just need the will, just the desire to close your eyes and turn inward. Start by observing your breathing. Don't change it. Just listen to it. Notice its rhythm, its cadence, its melody. Observe the sensations in your chest, your abdomen, your hands and feet. Every sensation is a note. Every emotion is a chord. You are the instrument. You are the composer. You are the music chapter. The silence that sings. Imagine for a moment that you are sitting beside a sacred river, whose waters not only flow, but also murmur the thoughts that cross your mind. Don't try to stop them or change their course. Just observe them, as if each thought were a leaf gently drifting down the stream. Some leaves shine like gems in the sun, sweet memories, lofty ideas, noble emotions. Others trail with shadows of doubt or resentment. There is no need to judge. The purpose is not to impose silence, but to tune the soul's ear to hear what is already there. In this art of observing without resistance, something extraordinary happens. The chaotic notes begin to fade, like distant echoes, and the pure melody of your essence emerges with clarity. That single note of serene peace, quiet gratitude, or gentle joy appears like a sacred spark. When you find it, hold it tenderly, like one protecting a flame in the wind. Breathe into it. Feel it expand from the center of your chest to fill your entire body. Then your invisible field. Then the very space beyond your skin. It becomes a wave that vibrates outward into the universe, like the echo of a forgotten truth. It's not a fantasy, nor a naive visualization. It's real. It's a tangible shift in the energetic symphony that is you. In those moments of profound inner harmony, your entire being resonates with the vast music of creation. And it's there that healing begins, where abundance responds, where life, which once seemed like a wall of resistance, becomes an effortlessly flowing river. The ancient sages knew this. It wasn't the words spoken that moved mountains, but the silent music that played beneath. A person could repeat all the right affirmations without any effect if their inner vibration didn't change. But a single moment of true resonance was enough to alter the entire course of their existence. So, brave soul, you are beginning to enter the sacred art of vibrational mastery. We will walk this path together, each step deeper, each practice more refined, until we awaken the healer and creator who have always dwelled within you. And something curious begins to happen when you master inner resonance. The external world, with its apparent steadiness, begins to transform. What once seemed distant, unattainable, now approaches with certainty. What once seemed impossible now blossoms effortlessly, like a lotus opening at dawn. It's not magic, even if it seems so. It's the silent and eternal law of vibration, responding precisely to the music you now emit. The manuscript revealed a great truth. All forms, health, prosperity, love, are nothing but energy in solidified form. They are frozen notes in the symphony of existence. To change the form, you must first change the music. You needn't fight appearances or struggle with shadows. Simply raise your inner melody until the lower vibrations dissipate, like fog that vanishes at the first ray of sunlight. Herein lies profound wisdom. When you understand that everything is energy responding to energy, you free yourself from the exhausting cycle of strength and resistance. You no longer fight symptoms or chase results. You cultivate your frequency with devotion, knowing that the outside world can do nothing but reflect the transformation occurring within you. Now imagine that every step you take is a note, every intention a chord, every dream a symphony waiting to be born. Your life is not random. It's a masterpiece in progress, shaped by the invisible music of your soul. With every breath, with every choice aligned with love, gratitude, and abundance, you are composing new movements in the great song of your destiny. And remember, perfection is not the goal. Even the most sublime symphonies contain moments of dissonance, strained notes that give meaning to the resolution that follows. Your journey will have shadows and struggles, but these are not mistakes. They are necessary notes in the full expression of your being. Every moment, whether of joy or pain, offers you the opportunity to tune more delicately, to listen more deeply, to vibrate more authentically to the melody of who you truly are. You have been, and always have been, the composer of your experience. The lost Lissarion manuscript was not an external manual. It was a mirror, a reflection of the vast, creative power that lives within every soul who dares to seek it. And now, as we continue moving forward, we'll explore the sacred practices the ancients employed daily to strengthen their vibrational field. Through these practices, their lives became living temples of abundance, health, and profound peace. The deepest mysteries await us. Music calls to you, and to answer that call is to live in continual harmony with abundance. Achieving this sacred harmony means uniting mind, body, and spirit into a single vibration, resonating with the infinite source of all that is. Without this alignment, efforts are dispersed, intentions seep like water through the fingers, and desires remain as distant echoes, never embodied. Lissarion taught that mind, body, and soul vibrate at different frequencies. But when they manage to unite like a well-tuned choir, the entire universe responds with the same note. And that note, dear walker, is inside you, waiting to be tuned, played, celebrated. When the mind wanders aimlessly, the body twitches like an out-of-tune instrument, and the soul hides behind the veil of forgetfulness, existence loses its harmony. Every thought dissipates like a wandering note. Every opportunity transforms into a chord that never vibrates. However, when thought, sensation, and spirit align in a single melody, their music becomes an echo of purpose, and miracles cease to be exceptional and become the natural rhythm of life. Lysarion taught that achieving this sacred harmony begins with the mastery of thought. He compared the mind to an endless river, flowing without ceasing and carrying both pure waters and scattered debris, dried leaves, broken branches, uncertainties, fears, and regrets. The key is not to slow its flow, but to purify it, choosing thoughts with the same care with which one selects seeds for an invisible garden, aware that each one will germinate in light or shadow. Tender thoughts, generous visions, dreams born of compassion. These are the clear waters that nourish the vibratory field of true abundance. But the mind alone is not enough. The body must also become a finely tuned instrument. Every movement, every breath, every gesture of care toward the sacred temple that is your flesh influences your energy field. A neglected or tense body becomes a war drum, resonating with frequencies of struggle, fear, and exhaustion. In contrast, a body treated with devotion, nourished with intention, and caressed by the breath of consciousness becomes a tuning fork for higher vibrations. Don't underestimate the small acts. A conscious twist upon waking, a gratefully blessed sip of water, a walk under the open sky. These aren't mere habits. They're recalibrating rituals, silent signals that tell the universe, I am here. I've made space to receive. You have cleansed the cup, and the cup, sooner or later, will be filled. And beyond thought and body, there is the spirit, that radiant core that needs no correction or improvement, only to be remembered. The spirit doesn't fragment, it doesn't age, it isn't lost. It only becomes silent when the mind and body stop listening to it. But a moment of recognition, an inner reverence, is all it takes. And it begins to sing again. Its song harmonizes every cell, every corner of your being. Aligning mind, body, and spirit isn't about imposing rigid perfection on yourself, but rather cultivating tenderness toward yourself. It's an act of profound love, a way to return to your natural state, where abundance isn't a distant goal, but a presence that breathes with you. You don't need to chase it, you need to embody it. So, dear soul, on this path that opens before you, prepare to embrace practices that unify you. Ancient rituals and daily devotions that don't demand more of you, but rather awaken what has always been there, the dormant song of abundance that lives within you. The path is illuminated. The music calls you. Remember, this alignment is not a one-time event, but a sacred dance that is renewed with each dawn. Every decision, every conscious breath, every moment of silence becomes an opportunity to resonate your truth. It's not so much about striving as it is about softening. Not about reaching, but about allowing the natural symphony of your being to emerge on its own. Each new day is a blank, vibratory canvas. Before the demands of the world fall upon you like stones, there is a sacred window, a moment when you can choose your frequency. In the ancient sanctuaries where Lysarion taught, the disciples did not begin the day with haste or words, but with a silent attunement. Through intention, breathing, and gratitude, they prepared their energetic field to receive the melody of the universe. When I opened my eyes, before yesterday's thoughts took over, they whispered a simple truth. I am a being of infinite abundance. Today I tune my being to the music of prosperity. Not as a forced command, but as a song that reminds every cell of who you are in essence. Allow those words to be not just spoken, but lived. Let them vibrate within you, like a string beginning to play its purest note. Then, honor the body. Stretch with gratitude, as if celebrating the miracle of continuing to inhabit this form. Feel the privilege of breathing, of moving, of feeling. Drink water as one drinks light. Walk not to punish the body, but to thank it for its sacred service. Every step, every inhalation can be a silent prayer if you choose to make it so. And finally, turn inward. Even if it's only for a few breaths, allow your spirit to speak. Close your eyes. Listen. Remember, you are so much more than what you appear. Your soul hasn't forgotten how to sing. Close your eyes, soul traveler, and let your attention descend beyond thoughts, beyond flesh and breath, to the very center of your being. There, deep within, is a flame that never goes out. It doesn't scream, it doesn't demand, it doesn't beg. It just burns, silent, constant, infinite. It is the eternal witness that has been with you through every season of your life, through the springs of joy and the winter of the soul. It asks you for no sacrifices or achievements. It only wants to be remembered. That fire always vibrates at the purest frequency, that of unconditional love. And when you touch it, even for a moment, your entire energy field is flooded with peace, power, and a potential as vast as the heavens. The outside world may seem unstable, but within you lies a place that nothing and no one can disturb. When the mind is calmed, when the body is freed from the weight of fear, when the spirit is recognized in its majesty, your entire being becomes a living magnet. Invisible doors open. The right people, unexpected opportunities, and everyday miracles come to you not through the strength of your struggle, but through the song of your deepest vibration. And if you ever fall, because every walker stumbles, remember this: harmony is not a fixed point, not a destination where you arrive and rest. It is a living dance, a back and forth between light and shadow. There will be days when everything flows like a serene river, and others when silence will be your only company. But what truly matters is your sacred commitment to return. Return to the center. Return to the fire. Return to yourself. The universe doesn't listen to the perfection of your actions, but to the truth of your intention. And every time you choose to return, even for a breath, you strengthen the invisible bridge between your deepest essence and the full life that yearns to find you. Therefore, as you continue moving forward, I invite you to open yourself to ancestral practices that not only illuminate the path, but also root it in your being. Living rituals, sacred exercises, habits of the sages of old who knew that alignment was not a single act, but a daily art, a constant heartbeat, a melody that must be tuned with each dawn and each decision. Living in harmony with abundance isn't a matter of fleeting moments of lucidity. It's a devotion, a gentle but firm commitment to cultivating the vibratory field that dwells within you. This is true mastery, not achieving abundance as a distant goal, but embodying it as a constant presence. The ancient disciples of the wise man of Samos understood this. They didn't divide their lives into the spiritual and the everyday. Every thought, every word, every glance was a note in the great symphony of their existence. There were no trivial moments. Everything was sacred, and every decision was an opportunity to strengthen or weaken the music of their soul. One of their most powerful rituals was the art of conscious intention. Before acting, before speaking, before beginning any task, they would stop, if only for a moment, and ask themselves, what frequency do I carry within me? If doubt, anger, or fear colored their hearts, they wouldn't move forward. They breathed. They returned to their center. They waited until love, clarity, or gratitude blossomed within them again. Only then would they take the next step. Imagine for a moment beginning every encounter, every conversation, every new day with an internal tune-up, tuning your heart to joy or service before you speak, inspiring compassion before looking at another, giving thanks before you sleep, even for the imperfect moments. These aren't just habits. They are acts of vibrational alchemy that shape your destiny, note by note, breath by breath. And when these practices take root, you will perceive a change so profound that words cannot describe it. You will feel a peace beyond circumstances, a silent certainty that the entire universe conspires in your favor. That is true treasure. true wealth. The state of being that attracts all that is good, not because you demand it, but because you have become one with its frequency. And so, dear soul, as we follow the path, the veils begin to lift. The ancient symbols, the sacred sounds, the vibrational codes of the sages begin to reveal themselves. This music doesn't repeat itself, it deepens. This light doesn't dim, it expands. True alignment is not a static state. It is a living song that adapts to the changing rhythm of your story. There will be days when your melody flows like the wind through the trees, and others when it seems impossible to find the right note. But that isn't failure, but the very pulse of the universe. Just as the moon waxes and wanes, as the tides rise and fall, your inner vibration will move in cycles of opening and retreat. Don't resist these movements. Listen to them, observe them, and when you stray, return with love to the fire that never goes out. The ancients knew that maintaining this sacred harmony didn't require perfection, but fidelity. A simple, patient, luminous fidelity. The temple isn't far away. It's in your breath, in your gaze, in the silence where the eternal flame awaits you, as always, so you can remember who you are. In the great temple of Lissarion, where souls found their own unique melody, there were rituals for every season of the spirit. Sacred practices lifted the spirits in times of joy, and subtle remedies healed the vibration when shadows pierced the heart. They knew, with the wisdom that only time can grant, that a person's strength is not measured by how often they lose themselves in discord, but by how quickly and gracefully they return to harmony. One of those sacred rituals was based on sound, a single tone, sung or whispered each day, carefully chosen to resonate with the vibration the soul desired to cultivate. It wasn't a song for the ears of the world, but an intimate hymn for the cells of the body and the invisible field of the spirit. A murmur of peace, a note of gratitude, a sigh of courage. Those sounds, simple and pure, carried vibrations that transcended the audible, recalibrating the invisible architecture of their lives. Today, dear wayfarer, you too can reclaim this ancient practice. Find the sound that resonates authentically with your essence, be it a word, a tone, or even a sigh. Offer it to yourself each day, not as a duty, but as a subtle blessing. Let that echo resonate in your body, filling every corner where old fears once dwelled. And watch as your reality begins to reconfigure, slowly but surely, to sync with your new melody. Always remember, eternal soul, you are not just in the universe, you are a part of it. Its music is your birthright. Every time you align your mind with gratitude, your body with reverence, and your spirit with remembrance, you rejoin the great chorus of creation. Separation is an illusion. Only vibration exists, and you are its teacher, its instrument, its perpetual song. As we close this chapter and prepare for the next, we delve deeper into the sacred technologies of vibration, the ancient practices hidden in symbols, numbers, and sounds that can elevate your being to realms of unimaginable abundance and radiant health. The manuscript continues to reveal its mysteries, and the journey has only just begun. There is an ancient wisdom that teaches, practice is the bridge between knowledge and transformation. Knowing the truth of vibration is powerful, but living it day after day is what transforms that knowledge into a living force, shaping the currents of your reality. In the sacred schools of Lissarion, practice was not a routine, but a profound devotion, a holy ritual that attuned the soul to its purest resonance. The first of these daily practices is the use of sacred mantras, simple, powerful phrases that, when spoken or meditated on silently, vibrate at specific frequencies. These are not ordinary words, but energetic keys designed to align the speaker with states of harmony, abundance, healing, and divine remembrance. One of these mantras, whispered through the ages, is Selon, a term meaning body of light. Disciples would sit in silence at dawn, breathing deeply and gently, repeating these words and feeling their vibration expand into every cell, awakening dormant potentials. It wasn't the literal meaning of the words that gave them power, but the energy they invoked, the subtle frequencies they drew into the practitioner's field. By integrating the mantra into your day, allow it to become more than a repetition, an anchor, a vibrational beacon that harmonizes mind, body, and spirit. Whisper it upon waking, let it flow with your breath as you walk. Hold it within you when facing moments of uncertainty. Over time, it will carve paths of resonance in your being, roots through which abundance and peace will flow effortlessly. Along with the sacred word, the ancients practiced sound meditation, a pure sound bath for the mind and body. They believed that certain sustained frequencies could cleanse the energy field, dissolving blockages and restoring the natural flow of life force. A simple humming, kept soft and steady at the pitch that feels most natural to you, can work wonders. No matter what you call it, tone, or chant, what's essential is the intention you put into the sound, the awareness you infuse into it. Find a quiet place. Sit or stand comfortably. Close your eyes. Place one hand over your heart and breathe deeply. As you exhale, allow a gentle humming sound to arise naturally. Feel it vibrate in your chest, your throat, your skull. Notice it not only within you but around you, as if creating a cocoon of pure sound. This vibration, maintained even for a few minutes, can recalibrate your entire energetic system, aligning you with the highest harmonies of the cosmos. As you delve deeper into these practices, you'll notice how life responds differently. Challenges soften, doors open, synchronicities multiply. You no longer fight the currents, you flow with them, carried by the music you chose to embody. The following practice is even more subtle and powerful: the sacred art of visualization, where frequency and imagination dance together to create the realities you long to experience. Visualization is not mere fantasy. It is the conscious formation of energy into matter. In ancient schools of vibrational wisdom, visualization was considered a sacred tool, a bridge between the invisible and the visible, between internal vibration and external manifestation. When you close your eyes and see with the eyes of the soul, you don't just imagine, you vibrate. You create frequencies so tangible that the universe can't help but respond. Thought imbued with feeling, feeling aligned with vision. That is the secret formula for true manifestation. Lissarion's disciples learned to visualize not with vague desires, but with vivid and rich sensory experiences. If they sought healing, they didn't just think about being well. They saw themselves dancing, laughing, breathing deeply under an open sky. They felt the strength in their limbs, heard the echo of their joyful laughter, tasted the sweetness of renewed life. Every sense was activated. Every detail was painted in vivid colors, until body and soul believed that reality as their own. I'd like to take this opportunity to tell you that if what you are seeing resonates with you, you'll find much more material to continue learning in the first link in the description. The sacred art of living vision. In the intimate refuge where the world fades away, where noise dissolves into the eternal whisper of silence, there begins the ancient and sacred art of mindful seeing. Find a quiet space, a personal sanctuary where no distractions can penetrate. Sit or rest, allowing your body to relax and your soul to open. Close your eyes and breathe slowly and deeply, letting each inhalation draw you deeper into yourself, beyond the tumult of thought, into the immaculate space where everything is created and nothing disturbs. From that subtle and luminous center, summon the image of the life you wish to manifest, not as a distant dream or an uncertain hope, but as a present experience, already happening in the fabric of the now. Contemplate the abundance you neither pursue nor yearn for, but in which you already dwell. Feel the security that envelops you, the freedom that grows, the expansion that unfolds with each heartbeat. Smell the aroma that permeates this new reality. Listen to the sounds that vibrate in the harmony of your prosperous existence. Touch the textures, the warmth that emanates from each moment, woven by your invisible hands. Let a wave of emotions wash over you. Profound gratitude, pure joy, a peace that knows no bounds. These vibrations are the notes that transform a fleeting vision into a constant melody, to which the universe responds without hesitation. Since time immemorial, it has been known that the cosmos does not yield to lack, nor is it moved by anxiety. It responds only to the soul that vibrates with absolute certainty, that prays from the conviction that the prayer has already been answered, that the dream has been fulfilled in the silence of eternity. Every time you practice this visualization, even if only for a few moments, you strengthen the magnetic bond between your inner world and external reality, which, by the invisible laws of resonance, must align and converge with it. As we delve deeper into this path of vibrational mastery, we open the door to the secret language of the universe, symbols and numbers. In the teachings Lissarion gave his disciples, these forms were more than signs. They were living keys, each vibrating at a unique frequency, capable of opening portals in the soul and connecting human beings with universal forces far beyond their everyday understanding. Consider the triangle, that sacred figure whose 3 vertices conceal a perfect vibratory portal. For the sages, this symbol embodies the divine union of mind, body, and spirit, 3 forces that sustain and reflect each other in eternal balance. Visualizing a radiant triangle on the chest is not mere fantasy. It is an invitation to harmonize energy, to dissolve the chaos of everyday life into the subtle order of the soul. Today you can begin this practice. Close your eyes, breathe with intention, and in the silent theater of your mind, draw a triangle of brilliant light in the center of your chest. Feel how each vertex pulsates with its own essence. One is your clear, expansive, and serene mind. Another, your vigorous, vibrant, and alive body. And the third, your eternal, wise, and luminous spirit. Allow these 3 dimensions to intertwine in a harmonious embrace, sustaining and elevating each other in perfect synchrony. Let the light expand, radiating waves of coherence that run through your entire being. Soon, you will perceive a tangible change, a profound calm, a luminous clarity, a center of power, born not from effort, but from true resonance. These practices, though seemingly simple, a mantra whispered at dawn, a hum that resonates in your bones, a triangle of light growing in your chest, are not mere symbols. They are acts of vibrational attunement, invisible threads that connect you to the great symphony of the cosmos, where abundance, healing, and joy flow unhindered and effortless. Then, you live less as someone pleading with the universe, and more as someone radiating its blessing, shaping reality with the music of your soul. And this is just the beginning. Later, you'll prepare for a higher level, the mastery of sustaining elevated frequencies amidst the storms that life inevitably brings. You'll learn to anchor abundance so deeply within your being that no external circumstance can ever separate you from it. The sacred river continues its unceasing course. Let us walk together along its shining banks. Sustaining the inner light amidst life's storms is the mark of a true master. It's not just reaching the heights in the silence of meditation, nor feeling the sweetness of alignment in the stillness of the moment. It's bringing that resonance to the marketplace, to work, to conversations, and to the challenges that are part of the human journey. The master and the music of the universe. But hold this deep within your soul. Not only is it possible, but it is your birthright. Since time immemorial, the sages of ancient times understood that true vibrational mastery is not achieved by fleeing the world, but by bringing the light to every corner of existence. They walked among kings and beggars, without distinction, carrying within their hearts an unbreakable center, a melody that no storm could silence. They had learned to anchor the highest frequencies deep within their being, a sacred refuge where no external wind could rob them of their peace. The key to this anchoring lies in devotional surrender, in consciously and daily returning to the vibration you choose to live. not only when life smiles easily, but especially when the fires of conflict burn brightly. In adversity, they return to peace. In the face of scarcity, they turn to gratitude. In the shadow of fear, they return to love. Each return strengthens. Each return opens a deeper channel through which divine energy flows into life. Among ancient wisdom circles, a powerful technique was practiced. The anchor word, a single word laden with intimate meaning, chosen to embody the frequency you wish to sustain in times of challenge. The adept would close their eyes, breathe calmly, and silently pronounce that word in their inner space, rekindling the vibration in seconds. Your anchor word can be trust, light, abundance, peace, or any word that ignites the sacred fire in your heart. Repeat that word often, so that it becomes the bridge that always brings you back to your center, the song you can hear even in the thickest noise of the world. Another sacred practice was the nightly realignment ritual. Before sleeping, the ancients reviewed their day with loving awareness, without judgment or blame. When did they sing their soul's true song? When did they stray into dissonance? With each observation, they simply breathed, forgave, and realigned, knowing that each dawn is a new tuning, a fresh beginning. This is how they lived, not in the shadows of the past or in fear of the future, but in the eternal now, vibrating at the frequency of their highest truth. And you, dear soul, are called to that same path, not to perfection, but to presence, not to rigidity, but to devotion. Every moment is an opportunity to remember who you are, a being of light, a master of vibration, a living temple of abundance. As we prepare to enter the next revelations of this sacred journey, remember that the keys to your new life are already in your hands, vibrating, shimmering, singing, just waiting for you to interpret them into reality. The river deepens, the stars draw closer to whisper, for there is a silent architecture that holds all things. A sacred geometry woven into the sky, into rivers, into swirling shells, into the heartbeat. It is the mathematics of manifestation, the hidden language through which the universe speaks and creates. To understand this language is to see beyond the surface of reality, to glimpse the living patterns that shape all existence. Lysarion dedicated his life to unraveling these mysteries. He taught that numbers are not mere counting tools, but living forces, vibrations clothed in symbolism, the very structure upon which reality rests. Each number carries a frequency, a resonance that shapes the visible and invisible world. One represents unity, the indivisible source from which all things spring. 2 symbolizes duality, the eternal dance of opposites, light and shadow, spirit and matter. 3 is the sacred triangle, emblem of harmony and creation, where mind, body, and spirit are in perfect balance. 4 is the solidity of the square, the firm foundation upon which worlds can be built. Every number, every symbol, is a living pulse in the fabric of life. But beyond symbolism, Lysarion taught that sound itself obeys mathematical laws. The vibrations that generate music, the patterns drawn in the sand as sound waves pass through, all follow divine proportions, the golden harmonies that sculpt galaxies and cells. When you chant a sacred mantra, when you hum a healing tone, when you visualize a triangle of pure light on your chest, you are not practicing superstition. You are aligning yourself with the ancient mathematics of manifestation, fine-tuning your frequency to resonate with the universal patterns that create and sustain life. Now imagine that every thought, every emotion, every word is a note in this great cosmic symphony. Some notes produce harmony, attracting beauty, health, and abundance. Others generate dissonance, summoning confusion, discord, and limitations. Your life, then, is not random. It is a living song, woven by the vibrations you ceaselessly emit. Mastering the mathematics of manifestation isn't about manipulating the universe, but rather dancing with it, aligning your personal music with the great melody already playing around you, attracting the experiences that harmonize with your chosen melody. So, beloved soul, as we advance in these mysteries, prepare to discover the sacred patterns not only in the stars, but in your heartbeat, in your breath, in your dreams. The numbers sing, the geometry unfolds. Let us listen together and believe. Everywhere you look, the universe reveals its secret code to those with eyes to see and hearts to listen. The spiral of a galaxy, the curve of a seashell, the unfolding of a fern, all obey the same mathematical principles, the sacred proportions of life itself. The ancients called this the music of the spheres, the silent song sung by planets and stars. The song of the spheres. The ancient sages said that if one learned to listen with the heart instead of the ears, one could hear it. A music not born of instruments, a melody that does not belong to this world, but that sustains everything. It was the song of the spheres, that silent chant that the planets sing as they rotate in the vast symphony of the cosmos. No ordinary ear can perceive it, for it vibrates not in the air, but in the soul. It is the whisper of God as He hears Himself create. This music never stops. It has no beginning or end. It has vibrated from the beginning of time and will continue to resonate long after the last of our thoughts have faded. Everything that exists, from the most distant star to the fleeting moment of a human breath, is born and dies within this eternal score. The ancients, like Lysarion, didn't just hear this music, they lived within it. They knew that the human soul is an instrument tuned by love, and that each life is an opportunity to sing a unique note in the great universal chord. For them, existence was not a test or a burden, but a sacred dance, a chance to find the lost note each of us came to sing. Everything in the universe responds to this invisible music. The flight of birds, the seasons, the waves of the ocean, the rhythm of the heart. Even the growth of a flower responds to patterns that can be traced with numbers, with sacred forms that repeat themselves like stanzas in a poem without an author. The language of the Creator, they said, is none other than harmony. And when one learns to harmonize with that language, life ceases to be a struggle and becomes a dance. It is not a dance without challenges. On the contrary, each step requires courage, attention, and dedication. But those who dance with the universe, even in the midst of pain, are not alone. Because when a human being aligns with their true note, the entire cosmos conspires to accompany them. It is as if the stars recognize their voice and respond with signs, with unexpected encounters, with doors that open as if they had always been waiting. This is how the ancients lived. They observed the forms of the world, a leaf, a mountain, a smile, and saw in them echoes of a hidden geometry. They understood that everything created is designed with intention, and that every detail, no matter how small, contains a message. There was no chance. Everything was symbolic. So when Lysarion spoke of numbers, he wasn't referring to dead figures. He was speaking of living spirits, of purposeful energies. 5 wasn't just the result of 2 plus 3. It was the number of man, of expansion, of the bridge between the earthly and the divine. 6, with its star of 2 intertwined triangles, represented the union of masculine and feminine, of heaven and earth, of soul and body. 7 was inner perfection, the seeker's journey through the invisible spheres of being, and so on. Each number had its own vibration. Each vibration had its own lesson, and each lesson an opportunity for transformation. But knowledge alone was not enough. Lysarion taught that all knowledge must come from the heart. It wasn't enough to understand geometry. It had to be embodied. It wasn't a matter of memorizing formulas, but of dancing with them. The true initiate was the one who managed to translate sacred proportions into acts of love, compassion, and beauty. Because wisdom that doesn't become goodness, he said, is merely a shadow. Many came to him seeking answers. They wanted to know the secrets of the universe, the symbols hidden in the constellations, the mysteries behind dreams. And he, with a serene smile, led them back to the simplest thing, their breathing. "Do you know how to listen to your own soul?" he asked. "Because that's where it all begins. In the silence you make to hear what you already know." For Lissarion, the body was a temple built according to the same laws that govern the galaxies. Every cell, a note. Every organ, an instrument. Every emotion, a vibration. By caring for the body, we not only protect our health, but we also honor the place where divinity chose to dwell. The body, he said, is the living score on which the song of the soul is written. And like every temple, it requires a ritual. Not as an external imposition, but as an internal dance. Rising with gratitude, eating with presence, speaking with awareness, meditating, not to escape the world, but to return to it from another level. Walking as one who blesses the earth with each step, sleeping as one who surrenders their soul to the nocturnal music of the universe. It wasn't a religion he taught, but a harmony. Not a dogma, but a frequency. Life, according to him, shouldn't be lived from control, but from resonance. When something vibrates in dissonance with you, let it go. When something ignites your highest melody, embrace it. That was his guide. And to those who feared they weren't ready for that path, he reminded them that the soul is already tuned from birth. You just have to brush off the dust of forgetfulness. Just listen. Just remember. Because the music of the spheres isn't outside, it's within. And when one sings from the heart, all creation listens. Lissarion's disciples learned to live in mystery, not as an enigma to be solved, but as poetry to be savored. They learned to look at the world as a mirror, where every experience reflected an unrevealed part of the soul. They learned that external chaos is nothing more than an opportunity to harmonize the chaos within, and that every moment is a note, a chance to elevate the symphony of life. Now, dear seeker, the words of the ancients come to you not as doctrine, but as an invitation. The universe sings. The stars spin in sacred rhythms. The trees whisper their wisdom. Your heart beats to the rhythm of an invisible dance. Do you feel it? You too can sing along. You don't need to be wise, or holy, or perfect. You just need to remember your note. You just need to return again and again to the center that has never abandoned you. From there, everything is possible. From there, life ceases to be a struggle and becomes art. May your thoughts be harmony. May your words be melody. May your actions be a sacred score. And at the end of your days, looking back, may you be able to say, I have lived like a song the universe wanted to hear. The silence that sings before the first breath, before time began to count its invisible steps, there was silence. Not a void, not an absence, but a pure, untouched presence. A silence so full of itself that it contained all the notes yet unsung, all the worlds yet unborn, all the destinies yet unwritten. That silence didn't disappear. It wasn't replaced by creation. It simply transformed. It became the space between heartbeats, the pause between two thoughts, the sacred instant before a true word. Silence is not the negation of sound, but its cradle. Everything that exists was born from it, and to it, it will return. The ancients knew this. That's why, when his disciples asked Lissarion what the key was to hearing the music of the universe, he responded with a gesture. He placed his index finger over his lips, as if reminding us that the greatest wisdom isn't spoken, it's heard. And it isn't heard with the ears, but with the naked soul. In a world filled with noise, external noise, mental noise, emotional noise, silence has become an exile for many. We flee from it because it confronts us. It strips away our disguises, shows us the mirror. In silence, there is no one to blame, no excuses to repeat. Only we remain, and who we truly are. And yet, that silence contains the most ancient medicine. Because when we learn to inhabit it, something opens within us. An invisible door, a direct connection to the eternal. The universe doesn't scream, it whispers. And only those who have made peace with their own silence can hear what heaven is saying. Lissarion taught his students to keep silence like a relic. He asked them to spend hours alone, doing nothing, expecting nothing, just being. Some grew impatient, others grew frightened. But those who persevered discovered a miracle. Within the silence, they began to remember. They remembered songs they'd never learned, names not of this life, feelings that couldn't be described with words. It was as if the soul, finally freed from the hustle and bustle of the world, dared to speak. And what it said weren't instructions, commands, or exact answers. It was something far more precious. Vibrations, resonances, gentle certainties, like those of true love. It was then that Lissarion revealed one of his most intimate secrets. He said that on the quietest night of his youth, he had heard his true name. Not the one given to him at birth, nor the one his disciples used, but the one known only to God. He heard it like a sacred echo, spoken by a faceless, disembodied voice. And upon hearing it, he understood that his existence had meaning, that it was not a coincidence, nor an accident, that he had been called, that his life was a response. From then on, he taught that every human being has that name hidden within, a name not written with letters, but with light, a name that vibrates in perfect harmony with the music of the stars. Whoever manages to hear it, he said, never feels lost again, because that name is the compass of the soul. But to hear it, one must empty oneself of everything else. One must let go of pride, fear, comparisons, old stories. One must surrender, not in defeat, but in surrender. Because silence is not conquered, it is received. It is a gift. And like all gifts, it demands humility. In ancient times, there were sacred retreats dedicated to silence. They weren't prisons or exiles, but temples of reconnection. There, people went to forget their masks, to grieve in peace, to rewrite themselves from within. They didn't speak, but they understood each other with their eyes. They didn't pray with words, but their hearts were living songs. In that shared silence, the collective soul found its tone. And when they finally returned to the world, they did so lighter, wiser, truer. Lissarion dreamed of such a world where silence wasn't feared, but celebrated, where every human being had their own sacred space to find themselves. A corner without clocks or screens, only the soul and the universe, only breath and mystery. Because there, in that invisible place, is where the cosmic melody is tuned, where the mind's dissonances are transformed into harmonies, where the ego surrenders and the essence sings. There, wounds heal with light. Mistakes become minor notes that enrich the symphony. The past loses its weight, and the future ceases to be frightening. Everything is summed up in the now, in the eternal moment of silence. And it is in that instant that the greatest miracle occurs. Communion. Not with others, not with sacred books, but with the source. With the heart of all. In that silence, one remembers that one is not a body, nor a story, nor a nationality. One is a vibration. One is a spark. One is part of an infinite song that began long before our birth and will continue long after our departure. When Lissarion looked at the sky, he didn't ask for answers. He just listened. He knew that in every star slept a chord, in every cloud a melody, and that, by remaining silent, he himself became an instrument. Not to play his own music, but to allow himself to be played by the music of the universe. Dear reader, if you ever feel overwhelmed by the world, if you're losing your senses, if you struggle to find your place, seek silence. Not in a distant cave, not in a hidden monastery. Seek it in the deepest corner of your being, in your breath, in the pause between two thoughts, in the moment before a sigh, and stay there. At first, you'll feel noise, then emptiness. Later, perhaps fear. But if you stay, the melody will come. A soft note, a sweet tremor, a song you don't know where it's coming from, but that you recognize as your own. That will be your soul, tuning into the all, returning home. You don't need to understand it, just feel it. Because there are truths that can't be explained, they are felt. And then, without realizing it, your life will begin to transform. Not on the outside, but on the inside. Your words will be cleaner. Your actions, more just. Your gaze, more compassionate. Not because you're trying, but because you'll no longer be alone. You'll be in harmony. That's the true miracle of silence. When you listen to it, you discover that you have never stopped singing. Time as a sacred score. They say time is an arrow that never returns. It advances without looking back, pushing us with its invisible breath toward an uncertain future. But that's what hurried eyes see. For those who have learned to listen with their soul, time isn't an arrow, it's a score. A silent symphony that contains everything. Every second is not just a unit that vanishes. It is a sacred note in the music of the universe. And you, traveler, are not a mere spectator carried along by the current. You are an instrument tuned by mystery, played by the hands of infinity. Your entire existence is a melody in the great concert of the all. Lissarion used to say that time is not measured with clocks, but with consciousness. That there are minutes that are worth an eternity, and decades that leave no trace. Because time is not the same for everyone. It depends on the depth with which we inhabit it. For the distracted, an hour is dust. For the awake, an instant can contain the universe. In the earliest stages of the world, before humans numbered days, time was sacred. People walked to the rhythm of the sun, slept to the beat of the moon. The seasons were not obstacles, but chapters in a larger story. Winter wasn't punishment, it was rest. Spring wasn't haste, it was rebirth. Each stage had its note, each cycle its tone, and the human soul danced with them, without resistance, without demands. But then the rush came, and with it oblivion. We forget that time is not an enemy that pursues us, but a teacher that guides us. We forget that we are not here to outrun time, but to listen to it, to decipher its message. Because each person is born with a unique score, and whoever can read it lives in harmony. Lissarion taught that the supreme art is not mastering time, but flowing with it, like a musician who doesn't improvise at whim, but in tune with the whole. Each day has a beat. There are days of sowing, days of waiting, days of mourning, days of celebrating. Ignoring that rhythm is like going out of tune. The soul tires, the body breaks, the mind wanders. Therefore, wise people learn to listen to their inner compass. They don't live according to other people's calendars, but to the secret call that springs from deep within. Sometimes that call calls for stillness, even when the world is running at full speed. Other times, it demands action, even when the world is hurting. And those who follow it, even if they seem crazy to the world, discover the peace that doesn't depend on the outcome. Because time is not a tyrant for those who love. For those who walk with an open heart, time is a faithful ally. Every year brings a lesson. Every mistake, a new cadence. Even the silences, even the emptiness are part of the melody. Time doesn't make mistakes. We just misinterpret it. When Lissarion was young, he fell into the trap of urgency. He wanted results, answers, revelations. He believed wisdom came through accumulation. But time, like a good teacher, stopped him. It stole his words, closed his paths, and left him alone with his impatience. And there, in that apparent stagnation, he understood. It wasn't about speeding up, but about synchronizing. It wasn't about doing more, but about being more present. From then on, I honored every moment as if it were a note in a divine symphony. I walked slowly, spoke with intention, listened with devotion. Not because I was in a hurry to achieve something, but because I knew that every moment was a revelation. The present wasn't a bridge to something better. It was the very altar where life offered itself. And so he discovered that time has invisible dimensions. There is the time of the body, which ages and changes. The time of the mind, which remembers and projects. And the time of the soul, which has no beginning or end. This last gives meaning to the other two, because only when we connect with that eternal time do we understand that life doesn't escape us, it is given to us. There are people who live 100 years without having truly lived, and others who, in a few dawns, leave an eternal mark. The difference lies not in the amount of time, but in the depth with which it is lived. A glance can leave more impact than a decade of words. A gesture of love can transform the course of an entire life. Therefore, time should not be measured, but savored, like savoring ripe fruit, a song that touches the heart, a starry night that restores our faith. We don't need more time, we need more presence. In his final retreat, Lissarion wrote on the last page of his notebook, "Time has stolen nothing from me. It has given me everything. It taught me that every tear had its moment, that every meeting had its hour, that every goodbye, however painful, was written in the greater score, and that I, like everyone else, have been part of that infinite symphony. I was not the conductor. I was the violin. And now, as I hand over the bow, I can only give thanks for having been touched by that invisible music we call life." And perhaps that's the great revelation, that we are not here to dominate time, but to dance with it, to embrace every stage, every mistake, every miracle, as part of a larger work than our minds can comprehend. Because in the end, when the clock stops and the body shuts down, we won't take with us the accumulated minutes or the marked dates. We'll take with us the notes we knew how to play with our souls, the shared glances, the full silences, the acts of love that defy chronology. That is eternal. And you, reader, have you listened to your score yet? Have you felt the secret rhythm of your soul? If you haven't yet, don't worry. The music keeps playing. You just need to stop, breathe, listen. Time, that great silent artist, continues to write his score in you. Love as a primordial vibration. Before sound, before light, before even thought, there was a vibration. A formless whisper that danced in the eternal void. It wasn't a word, a color, or an idea. It was the first heartbeat, the seed of all that would be. And that heartbeat, that disembodied pulsation, was love. Not the love that stirs between bodies, nor the love that is lost in human promises. Not the love that begs, that demands, that hurts. But the love without name, the love without form, the love that is. The primordial vibration that sustains the invisible fabric of the universe. Everything that exists, visible and invisible, was built from that original note. The stars were not born from explosions, but from a profound yearning for being. Galaxies spin not by chance, but by a melody that calls them to the center. And in the heart of every atom, that first song still vibrates, the song of eternal love. The ancient sages didn't need telescopes to understand this. They closed their eyes, and within the silence, they felt the sacred hum. They knew that everything that vibrates is alive, and that everything that lives loves. The stone, the flower, the animal, the breeze, all are part of the symphony. Each being is a string that resonates with a unique frequency, but all tuned to the same origin. Lissarion discovered it not with words, but on a night of profound solitude. He had crossed deserts of doubt, storms of guilt, valleys of silence. And when he no longer expected answers, love enveloped him, not as an emotion, but as a presence, like a fire that doesn't burn, but consumes all that is false. It didn't come from outside. It wasn't someone or something. It was a vibration, a certainty without logic. And in that instant he understood, love isn't something you seek, it's something you remember, because it's never gone, because it's who we are. From then on, she stopped asking if love exists. She stopped waiting for signs, fearing abandonment, or begging for affection. Because she understood that love doesn't need to be returned to be real, that it isn't conditioned by words, contracts, or reciprocity. True love is a vibration that emanates from those who remember its origin. Just as the sun doesn't need to be looked at to shine, the soul doesn't need to be loved to love. Because love isn't a currency exchange, but a frequency emitted. And whoever vibrates at that frequency transforms everything they touch, not by what they do, but by who they are. There are those who enter a room and light it up without speaking. There are those who embrace with their gaze. There are silences that heal and presences that uplift. These are people who have tuned into the primordial vibration. They don't seek to convince, impress, or possess. They just vibrate. And in that vibration, the world changes. Love doesn't need reasons because it precedes thought. It doesn't need forms because it transcends all. True love isn't selective. It doesn't choose whom to love. It loves. Like the river that doesn't choose which shore to embrace. Like the wind that doesn't ask whose face to caress. Love simply flows. And as it flows, it awakens. It awakens the dormant seed in every heart. Because all of us, without exception, carry that vibration deep within us. We just forget it sometimes. Sometimes we cover it up with the layers of fear, anger, pride. But it never disappears. It just waits. And when someone, even for a second, remembers that original love, they become a beacon, a drum, an echo. Their entire life becomes an instrument. And through their gestures, their silences, their choices, the world begins to vibrate. Lysarian used to say that true revolution will not come through swords or speeches, but through resonance. It will only take a few to remember their original vibration for all of humanity to begin to tune itself again. Because love doesn't convince, it infects. And that contagion is subtle. It's not a conquest, it's an expansion. It's not a cry, it's a whisper. Like the scent of a flower, like the song of a bird at dawn. It seeks nothing. It just is. And in its mere presence, everything is ordered. When a heart vibrates with love, its surroundings effortlessly change. Water senses it. Plants respond. Animals draw closer. Children smile. Even stones soften. Because everything in the universe recognizes that melody, even if the human mind has forgotten it. Therefore, it's not about learning to love. It's about unlearning fear, clearing the channel, releasing the interferences that prevent us from vibrating clearly. And that work is internal, silent, invisible, but real. Whoever dares to look within, to touch their wound with tenderness, to forgive their own shadow, begins to release that vibration. They don't need to say it. Their mere presence becomes medicine. Because love heals not by what it does, but by what it radiates. Sometimes, Lysarian would sit by the trees and simply breathe. He asked for nothing. He just was. And the trees, like wise old men, responded. Not with words, but with presence. Because love doesn't always manifest itself in visible gestures. Sometimes it's the stillness that encompasses everything. And you, reader, are also vibration. You are also love in its purest form. Perhaps you've forgotten that. Perhaps life has led you to believe that you must earn love, deserve it, prove it. But that's just noise. Behind all that, you already are. Every time you love without reason, forgive without explanation, stop to listen without judgment, you are vibrating at the primordial frequency. Every time you caress the world with compassion, offer without expectation, look with tenderness, you are remembering your origin. You don't need to do great things. Just be. Just allow your soul to sound as it was designed. And when you do, you'll discover that the universe responds, that the world begins to dance with you, that the vibration expands like a circle in water. Because love never ends. It doesn't wear out, it doesn't run out, it's eternal. And every time someone remembers that, a star is born in the heavens of the spirit. So look no further. Don't run. Don't beg. Just stop. Breathe. Feel. And allow your heart to remember the song it's always carried inside. Love isn't an emotion. It's the primordial vibration of all existence. And you are part of that symphony. The shadow as guardian of the soul. For a long time, human beings have feared their shadow. They have hidden it, denied it, buried it beneath masks of virtue and perfection. But what is repressed doesn't disappear. It becomes an echo, a dark whisper that calls to us from the margins of the soul. And yet, the shadow is not an enemy. It is not the monster we believe it to be. It is not a punishment or a curse. It is a guardian, a custodian, a teacher. In its silence dwells a wisdom that cannot be taught in books or repeated in formulas. Because the shadow is that which we have forgotten to look upon with love. Lysarion learned this one night when light wasn't enough. He had wandered through temples and mountains seeking enlightenment, listened to sages, recited mantras, and burned incense. And yet, a nameless sadness followed him like a faithful dog. No matter how hard he tried to be good or luminous, something inside him kept screaming from deep within. It was then that he understood. It's not about reaching for the light by fleeing the darkness, but about bringing light precisely to where there is nothing. It's about embracing the cold. It's about facing the monster without weapons. It's about sitting next to fear, like someone sitting next to a lost brother. The shadow is nothing more than the parts of ourselves we once rejected. The child who wasn't heard, the voice that was silenced, the desire that was judged, the pain we didn't know how to feel. And those parts, not being accepted, hid in the caves of the unconscious. There they wait, not to attack us, but to remind us of who we truly are. Because no one can be whole if they reject parts of themselves. And the soul doesn't seek perfection, but wholeness. To be whole isn't to be flawless, it's to be true. And the truth doesn't always shine. Sometimes it burns, sometimes it wounds, sometimes it whispers with a trembling voice. Lysarion understood that each shadow carried a name, a story, a message, and that each was a door to a forgotten dimension of being. Rage led him to courage. Fear guided him to humility. Envy showed him his true desire. Pain opened the way to compassion. They weren't enemies. They were guides in dark disguises. They were exiled parts asking only to be heard. When he finally stopped fighting them, the unthinkable happened. They became allies. They didn't disappear, but they changed form. They stopped screaming in the night and whispered with wisdom. The shadow, in reality, is like the sentinel who guards the threshold of the temple. It doesn't let just anyone through, only those who have honestly faced themselves. Because no soul can access its true light without first passing through the forest of its own darkness. Many want to rise, but few want to descend. And without descent, there is no lasting ascent. The soul needs deep roots so that its wings can spread without breaking. And those roots sink precisely into what we fear to look at most. It's not about glorifying pain, but about integrating it. It's about understanding that even our faults are part of the sacred map. That mistakes are also teachers. That wounds also sing. Sometimes the shadow manifests itself as sabotage, as repeating patterns, as relationships that hurt. But it doesn't do so out of cruelty, but out of love. Because the shadow knows the corners we've left unexplored, and it insists on leading us there, even if it's just a push. And when we finally accept that uncomfortable guidance, alchemy occurs. What was lead becomes gold. What was fear transforms into freedom. And then we understand that the purest light is not the one that shines without shadow, but the one that has learned to embrace it. So Lysarion no longer ran away from his sadness. When she visited him, he made her tea. He sat with her. He listened to her. And so he discovered that behind every tear lay a forgotten truth. That every difficult emotion was a letter sent by her soul, waiting to be read. He learned to walk within himself like someone walking through a forest. Sometimes he found flowers, sometimes thorns, but he no longer got lost, because he knew that everything was part of the same territory, and that only those who dare to inhabit their shadow can truly inhabit its light. The shadow doesn't dissolve with effort, but with love. It isn't illuminated by theories, but by presence. Gazing at it is an act of courage, but also of tenderness. Because to recognize it, you have to stop pretending. You have to take off the robes of ego, the masks of character, and show yourself naked before the mirror of your soul. It's not easy. Sometimes looking inward hurts more than 1,000 battles, but the price of not doing so is higher. It's living separated from oneself. It's walking through the world, repeating roles, but without meaning. It's smiling on the outside while your heart drowns in its own silence. Those who dare to embrace their shadow become a beacon for others. Because they stop judging, stop demanding. They understand that we all struggle with our own demons. And instead of pointing fingers, they embrace. Instead of condemning, they understand. And so, his very presence becomes healing. Because those who have made peace with their darkness emit a light that doesn't blind, but guides. It doesn't shine to show off, but to light the way. The shadow is not the end of the road, but its secret entrance. It is the guardian who challenges us, who confronts us, who whispers to us, "Do you dare to be yourself with all that you are?" And if the answer is yes, then the true path opens. That of the whole soul, that of the complete being, that of the traveler who doesn't flee from his abysses, but rather turns them into bridges to his eternity. Because only those who have loved their shadow can truly love the light. Silence as a master of the spirit. There was a time when Lissarion believed he should fill the world with words, as if the soul needed to explain itself in every gesture, justify every emotion, translate every mystery into the language of reason. He spoke to feel accompanied, to be understood, to protect himself from the emptiness. But one day, the universe asked him for something different. To be silent. It wasn't a harsh command, but a soft, almost imperceptible whisper that came like a breeze through the trees. It didn't come from outside, but from within. Something inside him told him to stop searching for answers in the noise, to sit down, to breathe, to listen. At first, it was uncomfortable. The silence felt like an absence, as if someone had turned off the music of the world. But he soon discovered that silence isn't the absence of sound, but the presence of the sacred. It's not a gap, it's a door. Because when the ego is silent, the soul speaks. When words dissolve, the eternal emerges. Lissarion began to practice the art of listening without wanting to understand, of being without wanting to do, of receiving without wanting to control. And in that empty space, which seemed like nothing, he found everything. It was like diving into a bottomless lake, where time stood still and consciousness expanded like a drop in the ocean. It was there that he discovered that silence is not just a place, it is a teacher. The true teacher doesn't teach with words, but with presence. He doesn't impose, he doesn't correct, he doesn't argue. He just is, and in his being, he reveals. Silence doesn't explain the mystery, it reveals it in its nakedness. It doesn't offer answers, but it transforms the questions. In the stillness of the soul, Lissarion discovered the truths that no philosophy had been able to name. He discovered that love needs no explanation, that sadness demands no solution, that life does not want to be understood, but lived. That there is a wisdom older than all thought, purer than all doctrine, more alive than all dogma. And that wisdom dwells in silence. The spirit grows not through the accumulation of ideas, but through the depth of experience. And silence is the space where that experience can be born. It is the womb of the soul, the garden where the invisible blooms. It was then that Lissarion understood why the ancient sages retreated to the mountains. It wasn't to escape the world, but to listen to it with their hearts. It wasn't to deny life, but to embrace it without the filter of judgment. Because only in silence can one hear the murmur of the spirit that inhabits everything. He discovered that trees also speak, but not with a voice. That stones hold memories that can only be perceived with the soul. That every dawn has something to say, if one knows how to stay still long enough. That even pain, when given space in silence, reveals its healing power. And he understood that speaking is a sacred act, but so is silence. That the verb, without pause, wears thin. That the word, without roots in silence, loses its power. Only those who know silence can speak truthfully. Only those who have inhabited emptiness can speak words that heal. Silence taught her to wait, to trust that answers will come, but not always in the form of certainties. To understand that not everything needs to be said, that sometimes the soul just needs an invisible embrace, a space to breathe, a gaze without judgment. And it also taught him to listen to others, not just with his ears, but with his whole soul. He discovered that, in true conversation, it's not about winning arguments, but about sharing presence. That listening to someone in silence, without interrupting with solutions, is one of the purest forms of love. In the silence, Lissarion found himself again. Not the persona he had constructed to be accepted, but the essence he had forgotten amid the noise. And he understood that he was not alone, that within him lived an eternal spark, a consciousness that needs no words to know who it is. Silence is a mirror. It shows what is, without embellishment. And that's why it sometimes hurts, because it confronts us with what we've avoided. But it also heals, because it gives us back what we had lost. It cleanses us, it reveals us, it reunites us with the sacred. It's no coincidence that life's most important moments occur in silence. Birth, death, first love, the last goodbye. There are things so profound that no words can contain. Only silence can honor them. Lissarion began to appreciate the empty spaces between thoughts, the pauses between musical notes, the moments of shared gazes without saying anything. He began to discover that silence is not the absence of life, but its purest essence. And so, she stopped fearing it. She learned to seek it, to create it, to inhabit it. Because amid the noise of the world, the soul needs to return to its center. And that center is always silent. One day, sitting by a river, he realized that the entire universe also has its rhythm of silence. That between seasons, there is a pause. That between each heartbeat, there is a moment of stillness. That even the stars, when they cease to burn, return to the silence of the void that saw them born. Silence is not the end. It is the origin. It is where everything arises and where everything returns. It is the invisible ink with which the soul of the world is written. And so, Lissarion stopped looking outside for what can only be found within. And in that simple, sacred gesture, he found what he had longed for: peace. Fire, as the alchemist of the soul. They say fire is dangerous, that it ravages, that it destroys. But those who have looked beyond fear know that, before destroying, fire purifies. And before burning outside, it burns inside. Lissarion didn't know it at first. Like everyone, he feared being burned. He avoided places where intense emotions burned, fled from painful memories, from dreams that demanded too much. He had built a temperate, safe life, where fire was kept at a distance. But the soul is not content with lukewarmness. Deep down, something within him longed to burn. The fire arrived without warning, not in the form of an external catastrophe, but as an internal restlessness, a small, almost timid flame that ignited in the center of her chest. At first, barely a warmth. Then, a question. What are you avoiding transforming? Because fire not only burns what is no longer useful, it also reveals what had been hidden under layers of dust, fear, and oblivion. Fire is the great alchemist. It not only destroys, it transmutes. It turns the lead of wounds into the gold of wisdom. And to do so, it requires one's surrender. So Lissarion did. Not all at once, but little by little. He sat with his fire. He listened to it, he let it grow. And in its warmth, the masks he had worn for years began to melt away. Masks of perfection, of control, of complacent silence. In every spark, a memory. In every flame, a forgotten emotion. In every crackle, a long-suppressed truth. The fire wasn't cruel, but it was honest. It didn't lie. It didn't embellish. It had no patience for falsehood. It showed him what he was, unfiltered. And although it sometimes hurt, it was also liberating. Because nothing heals more than the burning truth. Through the fire, Lysarion understood that what hurts is not the wound, but the fear of looking at it. That what weighs is not the past, but the resistance to letting it go. That what burns is not the fire itself, but the attachment to what must be transformed. It was then that Ivo understood the secret of the ancient alchemists. It wasn't about transforming metals, but about transforming themselves. They weren't looking for external gold, but rather the inner gold that is only revealed when one allows everything that is not essential to burn away. Because in every soul there are impurities, inherited beliefs, undigested resentments, guilt that doesn't belong to us. And the fire, with its wild dance, comes to return us to our essence. It's no coincidence that ancient temples lit sacred flames. They knew that fire was a symbol of divine presence, of awakened consciousness, of unconditional love that consumes what no longer vibrates with truth. Lysarion began to understand that fire has different faces. Sometimes it's anger, demanding to be heard. Other times, it's passion, yearning to be born. Sometimes it burns like loss, like grief. Other times, like revelation. But in all cases, it carries the same intention: to awaken. Awakening isn't comfortable. It's like a torch in the night, illuminating even what we didn't want to see. But it also illuminates paths we didn't see before. New ways of loving, new ways of being, new ways of serving. And fire, though it consumes, leaves no empty ashes. In its embers lies the seed of the new. As Lysarion let the fire work within him, he began to feel a new strength. He no longer feared burning. Now he understood that every painful process was a purification. That every broken relationship, every loss, every fall had come to ignite a part of his ego that must die so his soul could be born again. Because fire is also rebirth. Like the phoenix, which isn't afraid of dying because it knows the secret of the ashes. From them springs new life. In every ancient ritual, fire occupied a central place, not only as an element, but as a symbol. The initiate passed through the fire to leave behind their old identity. The wayfarer lit a candle to remember their purpose. The shaman sat before the flames to listen to the spirit's messages. And Lysarion became just another wayfarer, one who didn't need a temple, because he had made fire his sanctuary. He sat silently before a lit candle, and in its dancing light, found answers no book could offer. He learned to listen to what burned within him, to recognize when a flame was his soul pleading for expansion, and when it was his ego, trying to set everything ablaze out of fear. Because not all fire is sacred. Some burn out of rage, revenge, or pride. But the fire of the soul doesn't destroy for pleasure. It transforms out of love. That fire doesn't annihilate you, it reveals you, it reminds you of who you are, beneath all your layers. And when you accept it, you become its ally. You don't fear it, you honor it. Lysarion stopped running. He stopped hiding. He learned to be present when the fire came, to breathe it in, to let it burn everything. And in every fire, a rebirth. In every burning, a new freedom. Because the soul, like metal, needs to pass through fire to shine. And then he understood completely. Fire is not the enemy. It is the alchemist of the soul, the one who transforms shadow into light, wound into compassion, loss into openness, ego into consciousness. And you, soul traveler, also have a sacred fire within. Perhaps you felt it as restlessness, as desire, as pain. Don't extinguish it, don't reject it. Sit with it. Ask it what it wants to show you. Listen to its truth. Allow it to transform you. Because deep down, you are also alchemy. You are a dancing flame. You are a divine spark in search of expansion. And when you let the fire flow through you without fear and without resistance, you will understand what the ancients knew, that in the alchemy of the spirit, to burn is to be reborn. And that's all for today. But if you feel like we're just scratching the surface, don't worry. The first link in the description gives you access to more advanced content that can make a real difference. Thanks for being here, for supporting yourself, and we'll see you in the next video.